Thank you, Sam. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us. I had been thinking about doing a presentation on CRA for some time and had talked with our friends at Bankers Online about it because it seems it's training that's sort of hard to come by, especially to get into the nuts and bolts of actually getting loans coded properly, what's the right revenue figure, all that sort of thing. So I put this together, and hopefully you'll find it helpful. One of the big reasons I wanted to do it is whether you're a large bank and required to submit, or a small or intermediate small bank that has the option of submitting your annual data or just maintaining it and having it ready for an exam, data accuracy is extremely important. And I work with a lot of banks on exam prep, on just on annual or semi-annual, working with their data, helping them get everything right, getting the loans coded correctly. And so the same kind of questions come up pretty frequently. And if people aren't too experienced with it, they get really confused because they don't know the history and where a lot of this came from. They don't understand that it's all based on the call report. And those of you who see me posting on Bankers Online know I say that a lot in response to these things. You have to look to the call report. So even if you're not a large bank and you don't submit, the examiners these days are expecting you to have your data prepared and coded and geocoded and ready for them to select a sample. They don't just expect to see, well, here's a list of loans. They're expecting you to have done some prep work and say, here's our small business loans. And that can be a big help to you if you have it done really well, because they will not then just rely on a sample necessarily. Because if you're going to let them rely on a sample, that means it's kind of, well, catch as catch can. You get what you get, whatever they find. Good sample, bad sample, however it shakes out. And I don't like to take risk when I don't have to. So anyway, I wanted to start out by, on this next slide here, by mentioning a couple of things about the actual regulations. We've got the statute, of course. And I just wanted to point out here, we all talk about Reg BB, but if you're not a Federal Reserve regulated bank, any documents in your bank where you're referencing the regulation for CRA, Reg BB isn't your citation. And that's really the reason I put this here. It's fine to use Reg BB because it's a nice link from Bankers Online. You just go there, you click, there it is. But that's actually where the Fed referenced their version of this. Everybody's version is the same, so this is truly just the citation. The OCC's is 12 CFR 25. That's where they put the Community Reinvestment Act rules. The FDIC is at 12 CFR 345. OTS and the OCC, from what I can see, still has this sitting out there for the thrift banks. It's 563E. So and the Fed Reg BB is 12 CFR 228. So it's fine, like I said, when you're just going for a quick link, go to Reg BB because it's an easy link right from Bankers Online. But just remember in your citations, if you're OCC, for example, it's 12 CFR 25. And you can go there and you'll see it's all the same reg, except they'll reference their addresses and that type of thing. So just keep that in mind. The one you're looking out there on the web, that's the link for Reg BB. That's Fed-regulated banks. And if you look up at the very top sections under scope and applicability, it'll tell you this is for banks regulated by the Federal Reserve. So that's just a little technicality I thought I would point out there. Then each of the regulators has a website on CRA. The OCC's has a ton of information. So if you just search, OCC, CRA, you can get to their CRA website. They've got a ton of information out there. They put out publications about investments and all sorts of things. They'll get into some of the more complex investments because they do have most of the really big banks that tend to do those types of investments. So for anyone, no matter who you're regulated by, that OCC site can actually be a really good resource. There's a lot out there. Then the FDIC, of course, has their site. And you can, on any of these sites, you can look up, you can find the actual exams that have been published. The FFIDC has them out there, too. I tend to go to the FDIC one to try to find them. And then here's the Fed's CRA site. So you can see each one has a site for their banks. They've all got little newsletters and articles and all sorts of things. The Philadelphia Fed has a magazine I'm sure you're familiar with, Compliance Outlook. Compliance Outlook Live is when the Fed puts on those webinars. But the Compliance Outlook magazine, you can reach it online. They've had some recent very good articles about CRA. Second quarter of this year, they had a really good one written about the new census data and what it means and how it affects things. So I recommend for everyone using that site, that magazine, and it's available. You can just search Compliance Outlook, Philly FRB, Compliance Outlook, and you'll find it. Then I wanted to mention the linkage. I mentioned the call report. The way it works, we've got the CRA, the law, and the regulations. The regulations, which I'll show you the definitions, refer you to the call report for the definition of small business and small farm. So we go from the regulation, we then go to call report schedule RC-C2, which is where the small business and small farm loans are reported on the call report. Then that section references you, and that's where the definitions come from, and where the $1 million and the $500,000 comes from. Then that section references you to call report, the loans and leases report, RCC-1, to the line, those famous line items. For small business, it's 1E1, 1E2, and 4. 4 is the C&I loans. 1E1 and 1E2 are the real estate secured, non-farm, non-residential. And then 1B and 3 are the small farm. And the definitions in the call report are key to this whole thing of getting it right. When you look on the actual definitions, this is from the regulation, you can see small business loan, loan included in the loans to small businesses as defined in the instructions for preparation of a consolidated report of condition and income. Why did that happen? I don't know why that happened. With the consolidated report of condition and income, that is the call report. Same with small farm. It refers you to the call report definition. So you can get to the call, all of the call report. I'll show you. If you're not familiar with finding the call report, there's great material. In fact, I included the glossary section, which has the definition of loans secured by real estate. That's an important definition. You should hang it on your wall. That is very important. And I also I included the glossary and also the whole definition section for the loans and leases, the whole section of the instructions on RCC1, because that's very important. I wanted to mention this about the call report reporting. It really is critical to make sure that your reporting that you're doing for CRA is matching what your finance area is doing for the call report. If you're a really small bank, maybe it's you doing everything. But they really do need to match, and not having them match, and I've experienced this at a bank, and I've worked with some banks that have had to do this, not having them match can result in not only CRA scrubbing, but call report scrubbing. Banks have been made to scrub call reports because loans aren't categorized correctly. It's very, very important to have them in there correctly. So you really want to make sure that those two things are synced up. If your finance area or whomever does your call report reporting has a really good process, that can eliminate a lot of your work for this small business, small farm reporting, because then you can just pull reports based on call code. And later on in the presentation, I'll show you some examples of some ways I do it when I'm working with the bank trying to clean up their data. Because sometimes I'll ask them to give me a report, and I say, give me as many codes as you can, collateral codes, purpose codes, call codes, class codes. And you'll find things where it'll say collateral is residential, primarily residential real estate, and they'll have it a 4A. Well, that makes no sense at all for call report purposes and for CRA purposes. So I have a couple examples so you'll see what I'm talking about. But you definitely want to get familiar with the call report rules. find